For over 1,000 years, a really rich and, let's be honest, complex story has been unfolding in the Indian subcontinent. And that's the story of Islam. But this isn't some simple tale of conquest. Oh no, it's something way more intricate. And today, we're gonna unravel it together. So you have to ask, how did this all happen? I think the common picture in our heads is often one of a single forceful wave crashing down. But the reality? It's much more like a series of distinct, overlapping currents that arrived at totally different times and in very, very different ways. All right, so let's start with the very first current. And this one's interesting because it didn't arrive with armies marching over mountain passes. It came with merchants sailing right across the open sea. So get this, the first Muslims to set foot in India weren't soldiers at all. They were traders. We're talking Arab merchants and seafarers landing on the Malabar coast. And the timing here is just incredible. This was happening shortly after the death of the Prophet Muhammad. They weren't there to conquer anything. They were there for business, acting as these agents or compradors who worked peacefully under the protection of local Hindu rulers. This created a Muslim presence built entirely on trade, centuries before any major military campaigns even began. Now, that peaceful, sea-based arrival, well, that was just the beginning. The next wave, and this is probably the one we're more familiar with, came by land. And this one was all about establishing political power through conquest. And while this wave was definitely military, it wasn't a single event, not even close. It was a long, staggered process that unfolded over centuries. It kicked off back in the 8th century with Arab expeditions setting up colonies in Sindh. Then you fast forward a few hundred years to the 1020s, and you have Turkic powers like Mahmud of Ghazni pushing into the Punjab. After that, the Ghurids came and conquered the Indo-Gangetic plains, and finally, way down the line in 1526, Babur's invasion laid the foundation for the Mughal Empire. It was layer upon layer of political rule. But political rule is one thing, the growth of an entire community is something else entirely. And that brings us to the third and, you could argue, the deepest current of all, the spread of Islam among the people themselves. So what was fueling this growth? Well, it really boiled down to a combination of two things: immigration from the wider Muslim world, and, maybe most importantly, the conversion of the local population. And the reasons people converted, wow, it's this fascinating web of different motivations. On one hand, you absolutely had the practical side of things. I mean, if you were an administrator in a royal court, converting might just mean you get to keep your hereditary post. For others, it was simpler. It offered social protection or just made life easier. But then there was this other incredibly powerful spiritual pull. And that was driven in large part by the work of Sufi saints. And this right here, this is a crucial takeaway. The single most significant factor in spreading Islam among the masses, especially in places like rural Bengal, wasn't the sword. It was the influence of Sufi mystics. Their focus on an inner spiritual life, their tolerance, their incredible knack for connecting with local beliefs, it all made their message super accessible and appealing in a way that military force could just never be. So when we pull back and look at the big picture, you can really see how these different threads start to weave together into this single intricate tapestry of history. What we've got are three really distinct currents. First, the quiet arrival of traders by sea. Second, the forceful establishment of political dynasties by land. And third, the slow, steady, and deeply personal process of conversion, which was driven by this mix of social and spiritual forces. Every single one is a vital part of the whole story. So at the end of the day, the story of Islam's arrival in the subcontinent wasn't a single tidal wave at all. It was a series of distinct currents, trade, conquest, and conversion, that flowed together over hundreds and hundreds of years. It just reminds us that history is rarely a single simple story, but a complex tapestry that's constantly being woven. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful force isn't the conqueror's sword, but the quiet exchange of ideas,